And tonight's talk is about the role of ritual in our program and in worship in general. And we'll be doing a Visio Divina. So let's begin with a psalm chanted antiphonally. You're welcome to join in on the antiphon with yourself on mute if you would like to. God whispers to the heart, be still, I am with you. God whispers to the heart, be still, I am with you. God is our refuge and our strength, a present help in times of trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth be moved and shaken. God whispers to the heart, be still, I am with you. We will not fear, though the mountains be toppled into the sea, though the depths of the waters rage and foam. God whispers to the heart, be still, I am with you. Be still and know that I am God. God is with us. God has spoken, and the earth shall melt away. God whispers to the heart, be still, I am with you. Welcome to this digital contemplative prayer group. This is a place for all God's people. Whatever your beliefs or doubts, you are welcome here. If you are new to centering prayer, just follow the instructions as the session unfolds. You are also welcome to use the silence in any other way that is right for you. Loving God, we ask for your blessings upon this gathering, recognizing that we bring the joys and sorrows of our lives here today. If anyone would like to mention silently or aloud expressions of gratitude or concern for ourselves, our families, our friends, our society, or our fragile planet, please do so now.
For Paul.
God, we trust that you hear our prayers, silent or spoken, wordless or in words. So the role of ritual in our program and in general. We recently created a mission statement for these centering prayer groups, which is now up on our website. And in an early draft of the mission statement, we wrote that we have created rituals to protect and sanctify the online space. However, one of our members, Joe Dutcher, argued that we should take out the word ritual because it makes so many people very uncomfortable. And ultimately, I agreed with her. There are many of us who have been hurt by religion or made uncomfortable by it in many ways, and we may associate the rituals with that pain or a sense of being made to feel lesser. I've seen that discomfort in my practice as a spiritual director, talking to people about their discomforts with institutional religion. But often I've seen a paradox that when people who've distanced themselves from the religion of their upbringing have asked me to help them get started in some kind of meditation, I often suggest if they want to try Buddhist meditation, I might recommend a meditation center with a very neutral atmosphere, and also a Soto Zen service full of candles, incense, chanting, gongs. And much to my surprise, these people will very often prefer the smells and bells. They think they don't want the ritual, and yet they're magnetically drawn to it. Many people dislike church because they have issues with authority figures, hierarchy, and patriarchy, and yet those same people may deeply appreciate non-hierarchical religious ritual, led in a simple way by a peer, the relationship with the sacred, unmediated by any authority figure. I believe that human beings have a profound need for ritual. Sometimes those of us who are the most repelled by it are also the most starved for it. Today, many people distance themselves from religion because of their objections to religious dogma and their distaste for institutional religion. And those objections may be very rational and well-founded, and yet these same people may end up cut off from the powerful mystical way of being to which ritual is a doorway. Some people may use music, art, and theater to try to fill their need for that doorway into another way of being that brings them closer to the deepest parts of themselves, in a similar way to religious ritual. In my 40s, I found myself dissatisfied with my sense of God, which had become very abstract and intellectual. Those abstract notions of God weren't feeding my soul, and I found myself longing for clues about how is God present to us, asking, what does God look like? What does God feel like? Those questions seemed perhaps a bit childlike, and yet also very urgent. I was drawn to exploring the rituals of different religious traditions, like the incense and icons of the Russian Orthodox Church, the gospel music of Pentecostalism, the gongs, wood blocks, and chanting of Zen, the abhishekams of Hinduism, in which statues of deities are bathed in milk, honey, and flower petals. In the sensual aspects of ritual, I caught glimpses that helped me develop a body sense of how God might be present to me, through soaring gospel voices that caused my heart to open, through the smoke of incense that seemed to say, God is here, right now, in the air, through chanting that made everyone in the room vibrate together as one being. 15 years ago, when I began our centering prayer group at Grace Church, Brooklyn Heights, I wanted to make our group very welcoming to people who might not be comfortable in church by finding a corner to meet, not in the church sanctuary, but in a more neutral meeting room. However, my plans kept being foiled when the meeting rooms were constantly booked, and we always ended up in the sanctuary, and that seemed to influence the flavor of our group. While some contemplative prayer groups take on a format that might feel a little bit more like a class with instruction, videos, and discussion, ours became more and more like a church service, filled with psalms, chanting, and candles. I was inadvertently rediscovering the hunger for ritual in myself and the other members of our group, as we found ourselves slowly drawn into chanting and candles. And the rituals of my own childhood in the Episcopal Church helped to infuse our program with their rhythms and tones. The sensuality of ritual helps us to listen with our bodies to the sacred, exposing ourselves to unspoken possibilities. In ritual and silence, we open ourselves in vulnerability without expectations of what we will be receiving. While words feed our thinking minds, ritual and silence feed our whole being. Through the repetition, strangeness, beauty, and poetry of ritual, we separate sacred time and space from the secular, signaling to our senses that it's time to change gears, teaching our bodies to expect certain things at certain times. The repetition of acts that have a certain strangeness lifts us out of the everyday and takes us out of time, placing a slightly theatrical frame around activities and helping us to be more alert and alive when we enact them. So what are some of the ritual elements in our program tonight? We always begin our group by chanting a psalm, and the rhythm and the breathing of the chanting bring us into our bodies and help us to settle down at the end of our day. Even if you're not chanting yourself, even if you're only listening to the chanting, it can change the rhythms of your breathing and of your heart rate. The ritual of chanting the Psalms connects us with centuries of monastic tradition and is like an entrance we walk through from the ordinary world into the prayer space. We continue with the welcome statement that tells us, "This is a place for all God's people. Whatever your beliefs or doubts, you are welcome here. You are also welcome to use the silence in any other way that is right for you." By now, most of us have heard those words many times before, but it's important to repeat them because they tell us something about who we are and why we're here. They help us to create a group identity, welcoming, inclusive, and porous. They invite us to open ourselves, as do many of the other words in our program. Each of us may have developed our own private rituals that intersect with the rituals of the group. Sometimes after the bell sounds at the end of the centering prayer period, I look up at your faces on the screen and I pray for each of us individually. The rhythms and mood of our group rituals enter into us deeply and invite us to become more prayerful, each in our own individual way. Of course, God doesn't need the rituals in order to appear. God is always there. But the rituals help us to open to the presence of God, to trust, to connect with our best selves, to connect with our own souls. So now let's turn to our 20 minutes of centering prayer. I invite you to take your posture with your back straight and your body flowing out from your spine. And just allow yourself to be natural, comfortable, alert, not rigid, not too slouchy so that you don't fall asleep. And just notice how it feels to be in your body, and if there's anything you'd like to let go of before we begin, anything you'd like to give a little wiggle to or breathe deeply into. Any emotional residue from your day that you'd like to just gently touch with your attention and let go of. And just notice how it feels to be in the room with where you are. And notice how that connects with the digital space, the feeling of being where you are and yet also part of this digital community. And if you'd like, you can silently begin to sound your sacred word to yourself, or gently touch your breath, your sacred breath, with your attention. And whenever you become engaged with your thoughts, tangled up with your thoughts or distracted by them, you can use your sacred symbol, just touching it ever so gently with your attention, to bring yourself back like a bell calling you back to prayer, turning your attention back towards God's presence. Loving God, may we be held by the prayerful rituals that bring us closer to you. Visio Divina is a form of divine seeing in which we prayerfully invite God to speak to our hearts as we look at an image. As we gaze together at an image, I will offer you some questions for silent reflection. Some of them may speak to you, while others you might choose to ignore. At the end of the Visio Divina, you'll be invited to share a word or phrase to express your experience of the image. As you gaze at the image, notice your breath and your body. Simply be present to the image and allow it to speak to your heart without any particular agenda. It might speak to you in words or wordlessly. How do you feel looking at the image? If you had to describe the image in a sentence or two, what would you say? If you were in the image, where would you place yourself? Do you get a glimpse of the sacred from this image? Is God speaking to you in this image? Does a name for God arise for you from this image? In silence, sit with what you have received. If you choose, share aloud a word or phrase that expresses your experience of the image.
Beacons of God's light.
Abba.
Reverence.
God from God, light from light.
Expectant.
God of wonder, God of darkness.
Peace.
Let's close by praying together the night prayer. Lord, it is night. The night is for stillness. Let us be still in the presence of God. It is night after a long day. What has been done has been done. What has not been done has not been done. Let it be. The night is dark. Let our fears of the darkness of the world and of our own lives rest in you. The night is quiet. Let the quietness of your peace enfold us, all dear to us, and all who have no peace. The night heralds the dawn. Let us look expectantly to a new day, new joys, new possibilities. In your name we pray. Amen. Thanks for being here tonight. Just a couple of announcements. We have a special session next Thursday for Thanksgiving. It'll just be a regular session like our Tuesday night sessions, but it would be wonderful to see you there. And if you would like to stay and ask questions afterwards for the class or anyone else, we'd love to see you. So it was great to be with you, and have a wonderful week if you're leaving.
Thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Be blessed, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.